Yes, on.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I think coming in as a new candidate or a new member of parliament, it's been quite a whirlwind ride. A lot of things to learn, a very steep learning curve for me. Coming in from just being a voter to running in the elections was quite different. I can see that our political environment has changed. Voters' views have also changed somewhat. Definitely the old adage that our young ones are politically apathetic is not true. I mean, our younger generation is definitely a lot more aware about what's going on in the political arena. So personally for me, just as a new member of parliament, the first 6 months were very tough. Learning the ropes, understanding the needs of my residents, and then trying to understand what's really going on with all the feedback being given, strong sentiments being shared.
It was my phone.
It's not been easy, but I think I've learned a few things, still learning, and the good thing is that in spite of all the difficulties that I've encountered in the past few months, almost a year, I think it's been also in a process of self-discovery, finding out more about myself, about what are my areas for improvement, what are some of my strengths that I can use, that I can harness, and do my job better as a member of parliament. I think I will stop here and probably wait for questions from the audience later.
Thank you, Dr. Intan. Mr. Yi?
All right. It's always nice to be back in NUS, where I spent 8 years. I certainly took a long time to graduate. No, actually, I graduated 3 times from NUS, so it's always good to be back here. I will describe the topic today about whether there's anything changed in our political situation with this glass of cup. Perhaps the situation before the general elections was that there's some water, but it's not very full. And perhaps after the general elections, more water was added in. But it still can be, there's still some capacity to fill up. And maybe from time to time, there's some water being taken away, maybe through some evaporation, or I'm drinking some of it. Oh, there's something inside, is it? Okay, it's okay. You should be safe in Singapore. Okay. But the reason I use the water is that it's a continuum. There's things happening. There's definitely certain change. But you're not going to see suddenly from almost empty to full. That's really a revolution. There wasn't any revolution that happened in Singapore, but there are certainly changes. And of course, coming from the opposition side, there are now 6 elected, or there were 6 elected members of parliament. And of course, we are awaiting for when the Hougang by-election will be called. And then coupled with the 3 NCMPs. So we can see that there are definitely more opposition voices in the House now. So that together with the seats that were won, it means that the opposition has now a bigger platform to work on the ground, to look after constituencies, to basically manage town councils. And then, of course, we see that the social media is getting very vocal by the day. And more people are willing to add their voices. And, of course, we also had the president's elections which happened after GE 2011. And you saw that for the first time, there were challenges to the, shall I say, a favored candidate of the incumbent, and not one, but 3 challenges. So definitely the willingness for people to come out and challenge the incumbent has grown more stronger than before. And also we saw major shuffles in the cabinet positions, and probably it's a record number of ministers changing positions, stepping down, and so on. And we also saw budget 2012 quite a significant difference if you looked at that compared to previous budgets, which had a lot more focus usually on economic growth and so on, but there's a lot of focus on social programs now. So I would say that change is happening. It's just a process that's continuously moving along the way. Yeah. So I'll wait for more questions later.
Okay, thanks, Janjo. Mrs. Chiang?
I have this mic.
Yes.
Can you all hear me? Can. Yeah. Well, I think you know who I am. I'm Mrs. Lina Chiang, wife of the famous Mr. Chiam See Tong, MP for Potong Pasir for 6 terms. And a lot of people were asking why I come out to do politics at this age. By the way, I'm 62 years old. Why? Well, you see, I was born surrounded with politics, married into politics. And having been with Mr. Chiam all these years, I think I was only 27 when I took part in his political life, when I married him. And you can do the maths calculation, now I'm 62. So it's a long time. So I think I have been interested in politics, but I have never come out in the open. I was always helping my husband behind him, helping him with the policy making and questions in Parliament and carrying feedback for him all these years and doing activities for him. I was a vice chairman of Potong Pasir Town Council, and I was the second vice chairman of SPP, and I was a staff nurse. And I think I have got a lot of experience in political life, I would say. And so I thought it's natural. And now that I am NCMP, I find it's also very interesting for me. It's like a second phase of life. It's a learning process for me to be in Parliament, to understand the workings of policy working and the governance of law and all these things. So it is very challenging, and I find it's very interesting. And at my age, I want to be the voice for the people of Singapore. So that I would like to address all issues if I can, if it's possible, that people would not like to ask, and I would dare to ask, and I would ask it if it's possible and appropriate for me and my party to do so. And so, without further ado, I think I would read my speech. Is that all right? Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming tonight. And may I first thank the chairman, Mr. Raj Joshua Thomas, for his kind invitation for me to speak at this forum. Along with voters around the world, Singaporeans rightly want change we can believe in. Therefore, it is timely and essential that tonight we take stock of things since the general election last year. Compared to when Mr. Chiam See Tong first entered politics in 1976, the change has been overwhelming. When he first went on house-to-house visits, many people slammed their doors shut when they heard that he came from an opposition party. Much of this was due to the climate of fear instilled by arrest under the Internal Security Act, among other measures, like fear of victimization and loss of livelihood. Today, young people are no longer the apathic Singaporeans that the elders used to bemoan. They see the act of voting as a constitutional right and duty. Younger Singaporeans want to have a strategic stake in the assets and the growth of Singapore. Most crucially, since last year's elections, we now see more people stepping forward to serve without fear. The issue now is no longer for us to find interested people to serve in politics, but to up to the bounty to find talented, dedicated, and passionate people who will also be humble servant leaders. For the Singapore People's Party, any change in our political landscape must ultimately be geared towards serving Singaporeans. Whether it is greater public and online debate or changes in government policy or even a change in government, these are useless if they don't benefit Singaporeans. Let me cite the recent budget session in Parliament as an example of the kind of change the People's Party is working for. During the budget debate, it seemed that the PAP government is also changing and is listening more to the people, such as when it announced plans to limit the number of foreign workers which firms can hire. It will be hard to wean off our over-reliance on cheap foreign labor, and that is because of outdated strategies and decisions made by the government over the past 20 years. They are not easy to reverse. Any developed nation can grow its manufacturing industries by introducing unlimited cheap resources, and such as labor. And the cost has been glossed over by the government, the stress on the capacity of our transparent system, our healthcare system, and the overall infrastructure. This growth model is no longer sustainable for Singapore. We need new solutions for our future. So yes, we don't just want to change for sake of it. Singaporeans want us in Parliament to be part of the national process of debating and scrutinizing policies for the long term. Indeed, we should never take things in Singapore for granted. But Singaporeans did not toil through almost 5 decades of nation building only for us to be stuck in the same situation as day one. Singaporeans no longer find it legitimate that their concerns and aspirations be swept aside in the name of administrative politics. Thank you.